One, two, one, two. Yeah, everything is fine. Good afternoon, guys. Thank you for coming. My name is Ilia Kenigshtein. I'm an Israeli guy living in Ukraine for many years. I'm a co-founder of Creative Quarter, the huge and creative co-working office space in the center of city. We have a couple of locations, so I will be more than happy to invite you because project is pretty known. Not because I'm Israeli, but because I'm a lucky guy. I was made my Aliyah. I came to Israel at the beginning of 19th, where everything was just the beginning, and Israel was in a transforming way from like a pretty socialist country to the innovative and startup mecca that they became today. There is a good book about Israeli success called Startup Nation, but Israel is, as always, they're trying to create some next step, so they call themselves the Exit Nation already. Okay. My panel will be with Karin Rubinstein, which is CEO of Israel Advanced Technology Industries. And we will raise up a couple of questions about what is the main secret of Israel's success, what is the latest trend in Israeli high-tech industry, and what is the main problem that we actually research right now, and how we can replicate the success of Israeli startup story, and what we need, what kind of things we need to try to replicate what Israelis did. And I will be more than happy to have this panel with you, Karin. So my first question is: this is your first time in Kiev, right?
No, actually, it's my second time.
Can you speak in it?
Actually, it's my second time. I was here, I think, 3 months ago. Loved it and returned.
I see. So how you find Kiev today? Do you have any difference? Do you see any news in what you saw, and probably you have some updates and so on?
There was a reason that I came back, and the reason that I came back because last time that I was here, I found I had a great surprise, a good surprise, and I found Kiev. Ukraine, a place with a lot of potential to be a leading ecosystem, not just in Europe, but worldwide. Need a lot of work, but a lot of potential, and I came back.
There will actually, if you're talking about the potential, so the result of this potential will be visible during the next 35, 50 years, so it will be much faster. What do you think? Something like this?
I cannot answer this question. I don't know, actually. Maybe other knows. I do not know. Things usually go very fast. If they don't go and they don't start very fast, they don't go at all sometimes. So the engine has to start to move, and it started already to move. It can take 2 years, it can take 5 years. I do not know, actually.
Okay, so what is the main secret of Israel to become a startup nation? What happened at the beginning of 90s? Or probably it was happened much before, so can you just share with us your opinion on this point?
Okay, so maybe I'll just provide a very short overview for the ones who don't know about Israel and about the high-tech and the life science in Israel, and what gives me the right to speak and to share my opinions. Israel is a very small place, 20,000 square kilometers, 8 million people, but with one of the leading high-tech ecosystem in the world. If I give only some few figures about what's going on in Israel, So we have 15% of our GDP derives from the high-tech industry. More than 10% of the employees in Israel are in high-tech. Almost 50% of our industrial export is from high-tech. So we can say that as of today, we are almost completely reliable on the high-tech and life science in Israel. I don't know how many of you were in Israel. How many of you were in Israel? Deborah. Yeah. Okay. So please bear in mind, you know, we are located in the Middle East. We are surrounded. Almost all of our neighbors are our enemies. It's not an environment of innovation. And there is an history why Israel became such an innovation nation. So yes, let's talk about the 90s, even though it started a long time, even before.
Right. It was the time of my coming, with my family, we came to Israel. When? So it was 91.
91. Yeah. So it didn't start in 91. In 1991, there was a big thing that happened in Israel. 1 million Russian people, Jewish ones, immigrated to Israel.
From Ukraine, from Russia, from other parts of...
yes, and yeah. Yes. And most of them were very talented, much more than... The government understood the potential and started to support the Yozma program.
Yozma is initiative in English. Yeah.
It's like a Yozma program. The initiator of the Yozma program, Yigal Ehrlich, is...
the chief scientist.
He was the former chief scientist, and we are very, very good friends. We even, traveled together sometimes to a few places in the world. And they made something incredible. They just decided to put $20 to $30 million in 10 funds and to support it. Okay, so...
So where they got this money from? The money came from...
government money.
It's a government money,
yeah.
Okay.
And there was a matching after that. So let's say that in 1992, we saw already 10 to 20, depends how you count it, VC funds, and it was new.
Newborn VC funds, right?
Newborn VC funds. If I just continue with the history, maybe if you ask me, so in the year 2000, we already saw more than 100 VCs.
Right, yeah. But back to the 90s, actually, same with this money that they invested. They I don't know how they call the investments or not investment, because they never was expecting for any ROI, right, at this point.
Yes.
But plus to this, they created a chain of incubators. In Israel, it was called Hamama incubators. That was it was more than 20 incubators that was accepting different ideas from the people, plus also including the people who came, the new immigrants came from Soviet Union. And you need just the idea, just like like a team to start, and you will be able to get. You was able to get not just the funding, but also a place for work and place for kind of support with different services, operational services, and so on. So many high-tech giants nowadays, they was born in this incubator. So with support of this government money. But Yozma is not just about the government money. It's about the money came out from the Jewish diaspora in U.S. As far as I know.
Yes, it's not such a rare phenomenon. It's not something which is special.
So you say that the main secret of Israel actually came because of government support, first of all. The government at some point decided to support the industry.
Yes, it's much more than government support. I would say it's like more sharing the risk with the private sector.
So they was ready to do this.
It's like a public-private partnership. They were ready to do it. There was a lot of it was a big coalition, you know, to do it, and it was in the right time. Yeah, you know, who knows if it's luck or like a sheer coincidence, or it's like a well in advance decided. But yes.
But it was some level of trust between entrepreneurs, between business and government. If that's point, government decided to invest into the newborn VCs and into the companies. So my next question is about the trust, because it's pretty important that many of us talking about this right now. How we be able to build the trust between government and business in Ukraine. And probably between business, government, and Western investors, what is the starting point for us, on your opinion, based on the history of Israeli success?
I think that trust is built mainly on actions. That's what I think. And that means that if you have a plan, and if the government is issuing a plan, and also make it happen and execute it right with the right people, then the trust from the private sector is going up. It's very simple. I see the leading role of the government is not to build an ecosystem, but to support an ecosystem, and mainly not to intervene in the way. And it's a big deal not to intervene. So, and trust is being built. It's not in words, it's not like in talking, but it's mostly in champions in the government and in the private sector that have the strong will and the motivation to lead the way. It's built on people. You know, even one person or two person or four person in the government who take the role of leading and really wants it to happen. And not talking politics, but really going and do it.
Okay, and from other side, you still need to have a lot of potential entrepreneurs. So your system of education need to be adapted to the new way of government thinking at this point. So my question is, was something happening in educational system at the beginning of 90s of Israel? Because once again, we preparation this point because we all want to understand how we can apply those rules and how we can apply those segments of the story to the existing situation in Ukraine, where we have a lot of potential entrepreneurs out there, but they all leaving just to Silicon Valley, to New York, to Boston, and so on. So or to Israel as well, and to Europe. So we at some point thinking that at some point became some kind of donor of pretty high level of human capital, even taking into account our IT outsourcing industry. Yes. We are not creating projects. We're doing this project for someone else. Okay. So how we can change the way, how we can be the nation of people that creating something on substantial level, not some like, you know, small stars, but some big stars, like some unicorns. Yeah. Do we need to change something in our mentality? Do we need to change something in our educational system? Or we have to apply to the government and let them push them and let them know that we want the change right now. We need support right now.
Again, I will start in saying that I'm not sure in my answer. Okay, it's only my belief from my experience in traveling to quite a lot of countries and a lot of ecosystem in the last few years. And built on my experience in building the umbrella organization of the high-tech and life science industries, which help which help these startups and mainly helps in promoting technology education, okay? Having said that, yes, we see Ukraine as a country who provides outsourcing services.
Right.
There are more than a few dozens of thousands of Ukrainians who work for Israeli companies in low cost, relatively to the cost in Israel. And the next step, as I see it, for you, is to become an independent ecosystem that produce your own startups, your own innovation, your own R&D, your own IP, and your own people who will not go outside of Ukraine when they are 20-something, but stay in Ukraine and feel that it's the right ecosystem to contribute to.
Right.
Yeah. It's a process. It's a long process. I can tell you also about Israel. Not everything is very bright. We also face these last few years some challenges. If we talk about human capital, big challenges, I can say. I would like to say problem, but it will sound too scary. So I'll say
since they're leaving to US.
So I'll say yes. It even starts before by not leaving to the US, but it starts by pupils in the age of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 want less and less go to study the STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we are trying to bring long-term and short-term more pupils to study engineering and computer science and engineering and physics and chemistry because we think this is the basic of everything. Right. So it's a very big challenge. Okay, we are facing right now. We don't have enough engineers in Israel. We have a shortage of 10,000 engineers, and the salary is getting higher and higher to rent like a very young engineer to one of the companies. People in Israel live because they can live. You know, it's a free world. Everybody can do whatever he wants. They live. They live to the United States. They live to other places. They have a lot of hunger. They would like to succeed, not just in Israel, but in a lot of other places. Yes, they live a lot in California, but it's not just that they live and we will not see them again. We see them like one part of the ecosystem, and we are trying to build a system and the right environment that after a few years, they will come back. Instead of saying, don't leave, why did you leave? Okay, so even if they leave,
betrayed and so on.
There are a lot of organizations, few organizations, major ones that we support, that make sure and try to do their best that these great people will come back to Israel. Sometimes they live with the IP, which is not so good. Sometimes they live without the IP. But it's still, again, it's a process and it's a lot of work. It will not just happen. It's not a magic.
So you have, as I understand, Israel has not just innovative ecosystem, but also some kind of innovative relations with the immigrants that left Israel at this point. Just a short story from my life. I was talking with some Irish guy a couple of years ago, and Ireland. Everybody know about Ireland. So I've asked him, how many of you? And he said, we're 50 million. And I was pretty surprised because I was like in shock because there is 3.5 million live in Ireland, not 50.
Yeah.
And he said 3.5 million on the island and the rest of the guys live in US and other part of the world. So we're not just dividing them, the nation of Irish people, the world together. And the same thing happening with Israelis. So there's about more than 1 million Israelis live in US at this moment, if I'm not mistaken. And they left, but at some point they will come home. And probably their kids will come home. So they feel and they understand that Israel is a home, first of all. With a lot of problems and with a lot of, with a small country and so on, but...
I'm not the immigration ministry, okay? From the industry point of view, I can tell you that it depends on the environment in Israel, if they come back home or not.
I see.
Nobody can tell anyone, come back home. Okay? If there will be enough tax incentives and the environment will be, will welcome these people, so they will say, okay, we are coming home. I see a lot of Israel come home, especially not because they want to build their next company in Israel, but because the very basic reason. The children are getting a little bit older. Now they are 10 years old, 11, 12, and they want them to live in Israel. Because I think that Israel is one of the best places to live in the end of the day.
Absolutely. And there's a great story about Waze, if you remember. So Waze is a social network for drivers. As I know, at end of 2012, there was attempts to acquire them by Apple by $500 million or something like this, and they refused the proposal. So in a couple of months, they got the same proposal from Facebook, and they refused the proposal, but the proposal was for $1 billion. The reason is actually they decided, the rule of Facebook, the policy of Facebook is to bring all projects to the Menlo Park, to the US, to California. So there is a huge city with WhatsApp, Instagram, and so on, sitting together with Facebook in one area. So they refused this proposal because at some point decided we want to stay in Israel. And they was acquired by Google, $1 billion and $100 million a couple of months after this. And they still in Israel. And this is what is the most exciting thing in this story. So not everybody leaving. There's a lot of companies there just staying, or probably there's a second step to the globalization world. I mean, you don't have to hold someone to be here together with you if someone will gain the success in US because of the market or because of different things. And so at some point he will invest in your country. So still we just getting back to the investment climate. What is this government support should Ukrainians get from government just to make a first step on your opinion? Do we have to expect something from the government as a startup nation or potential startup nation or something?
Yes, it's all built on collaboration of private-public partnership. Yes, you should expect the government, one, not to intervene when there is no need. Second, to support initiations that are there already or they are going to happen. To provide the right financial incentives, to provide the right tax exemptions, to provide, like we have the OCS, the Chief Scientist grants. Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Tell us a couple of words about what is really high-tech in numbers for today. How many companies, how many R&D centers? How many Western companies coming to Israel to launch R&D centers and so on?
Okay. Let's start talk about the startups. So nobody really knows how many startups there are in Israel. We think there are around 7,000 startups, high-tech and life science, 1,200 new startup, around 1,200 new startup every year.
Wow.
But just know this, a lot of startups are also being closed every year, okay? So it's not all bright. Multinational companies. There are around 300 R&D centers of multinationals in Israel, like Google and Microsoft and eBay and Google and PayPal and SanDisk and Apple and Facebook and Amazon and Yahoo, etc., which comprise 50% of the employees in Israel. It's the highest number of R&D center in one place outside of the United States. So this is the multinationals. Let's talk about the growth companies for a minute. So until 5 years ago or more, a lot of people said, oh, Israel is brilliant, but they don't produce a large company, local large companies.
Okay, unicorns.
Unicorns. What is a unicorn? Let's say it's a company is worth around $1 billion. Most of the time a private company before an IPO. So today I can tell you that we have around 40 unicorns in Israel. We were always envy a few years ago in the countries like Sweden and Denmark, had really, really big companies. And we say, okay, we have startups. But now we have a lot of unicorns. Only 15 to 20 companies were built in the last 3 years. Now, there is an amazing phenomena of these unicorns, of these growth companies in Israel. 2 or 3 years ago, they started to acquire Israeli startups. Okay, until then, only the multinational acquired startups. So they started to acquire startups. There are more than few startups that have been acquired by Israeli companies. I can tell you that only Iron Source, I think, they made 9 acquisitions in the last 2-3 years. Of Israeli companies, which is an amazing thing. So it's quite a new process that's being held now in Israel. Few more numbers, maybe let's talk for a minute about investments and about exits.
It was close to $5 billion during this year of rising capital from Israeli startups.
Yes, $4.2 billion in the first half of 2017. $4.8 billion has been invested in Israeli Hightech in 2016. And if we talk about exits, only in the last few months, so we see already around $2 billion in exit. It means we are talking about almost 50 M&As. How many IPOs? I think we are talking about 7 or 8 IPOs. About
during this year.
4 or 5 buyouts. So it's, but still, having said that, the impression is that it will not be the best year.
The last year was the best, as far as I know.
We'll see what will be this year, but because we saw already, only now SAP acquired, only from the last week, SAP acquired Gigia. What was it, $300 million? $350 million, thank you. And Kite Pharma was sold for, I don't know, $12 billion. Aeroderm was sold to $1 billion. There was Mobileye, who was sold to Intel in $15 billion.
WeWork was acquired some startup in Israel as well, just a couple of months ago, as far as I know.
Yeah, so there was, as I said, there was almost 50 M&As only from the beginning of this year.
Wow.
Okay, so, but still, we see some minor slowdown, but we will have to wait and see what will be next.
My last question is about your advice. We know that it's about 300 sunny days in Israel.
300, excuse me?
Sunny days.
More.
Even
Some
more.
say there are 14 days of rain.
Oh, really?
That's it.
Okay. So sunny day push the someone to get out of his home and to look for the new adventure. And this is the way of how things work. You're just coming down, you're going to some cafe or some place with a networking, and you start to speak with someone, with stranger. So the relationship between stranger on very high level of credibility. And we unfortunately doesn't have that in Ukraine. So probably my question is how we can break this ice, how we can actually, how we be able to manage and to create a high level of credibility between people in Ukraine. What is your advice? What we need to do?
Again, I'm not sure. I can tell you that the entrepreneurial culture in Israel, everybody's talking about it, in the Startup Nation book, which is quite a romantic book, but doesn't have anything for what's going on today. But it belongs to a little bit to the past. But I'm trying not to repeat what I'm saying every day because there are new things that are happening every day, and you have to keep staying updated. But the thing for sure that I can tell you that the entrepreneurial culture and something in the DNA of the entrepreneurs in Israel is something which is quite remarkable. It's a small country. As I said, it's a little bit more than 8 million people. It's not fair, because, we know each other. Most of us know each other, and if we don't know each other, we talked about it yesterday, right, Deborah, about the 6 degrees.
We have the same. We have a lot of, we know each other. I mean, especially in the government, everybody know each other. The relationship is well on the same point.
I strongly invite you to visit Israel. It's easy to be in Tel Aviv. It's easy to walk. It's easy to talk to everybody. But make no mistake, Israel is a very professional place if you talk about high-tech results. No second chance to first impression. In Israel, it's like that. Okay? You have to have best technologies. You need to know what you're doing. You have to come with the right plan. It's true that you can fail and start again. We talked about it a lot. But in the end of the day, the venture capital funds in Israel and the managing partner of this VC and the corporate ventures who look at those startups, if they are not coming prepared and in the right time, it will not go good for them. They will have to try harder and to come again and to be more professional. It's a very professional place if you're talking about achievements in high-tech Israel.
Thank you. One line pitch, try harder, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. For that.